Welcome to Rates and Barrels. It is Friday, April 4th. Derek Van Riper, Eno Saris here with you. Happy Friday, everybody. On this episode, we'll have our usual Friday news and notes. We got a closer demotion in Pittsburgh to talk about. We have rehab assignments for players, some minor league injuries and updates to pass along as well. We've got a new segment we're introducing this season. Thanks to the culinary experts at Nationals Park, we have something called Taste of the Majors with our senior hot dog correspondent and Ottoneu founder, Niv Shah. That'll be a little bit later on in the show, so we're looking forward to that. Eno set up a pitcher draft for us. We're going to look at some pitchers under 50% rostered on Yahoo, fewer than 25 career Major League starts, and draft a group of them each, see how we do in there. We'll fold in some waiver wire targets over the course of this episode as well. Before we get into the meat of today's rundown, well, that's like 15 minutes from now when Niv gets here with the hot dog segments.
The actual meat.
The literal meat. I do want to remind everyone, we have a listener survey out there. Please click the link in the show description. You listen to us. We want to hear from you. We're asking you to fill out a quick survey about you and your podcast listening habits. Do that by going.
Us serve you better.
Yeah, demand merch in there, demand more episodes, demand all sorts of things. theathletic.com/athletic/survey25. 3 lucky entries will win $100 worth of Amazon vouchers as well. Whether you're a longtime listener or you're new to our show, we do want your feedback. So go to theathletic.com/athletic/survey25. That's theathletic.com/athletic/survey25. Again, the link will also be in the show description, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening wherever you enjoy your podcast. We really appreciate all of your feedback. If you go to the show description, you also find a link to join the Discord. Be sure to jump in there if you haven't done so already. You know, some news and notes here as we get started on Friday. Freddie Freeman, the latest Major League player to suffer a shower mishap. Those are Dave Roberts' words, at least. And it's put him on the IL with an ankle injury. Fabian Ardaya covers the Dodgers for the Athletics, and it's retroactive to March 31st. So it's going to be at least another week or so before Freeman can come back from this injury. And it happened to be the same ankle, the right ankle, that he actually had surgically repaired in the offseason, too. So this accident could end up being something that is a bit more of a problem than an ordinary slip in the shower.
Yeah, does it speak at all to like the structural strength and integrity of his ankle?
I haven't
seen
seen
ankle
anything.
that he got surgery on.
It's the same one he had surgery on, but
that's not great. Also, as you get older, these mishaps happen more often. Was it Sammy Sosa blew out his back by sneezing?
Sneezing, yep.
Yeah. These things happen more to the older players, I think. Although Blake Snell was pretty young when he dropped a sink on his toe or something. I don't know what that was all about.
A shower pedestal, I think, was that one. I'm like, why do you have a decorative pedestal? Something that could move in there. What are you doing? What are you spending your money on? There was just a story on The Athletic about how frugal a lot of Major League players are.
Oh, that is so good, by the way. Britt's story about how frugal the players are is so good. You got to check it out. It's hilarious. I mean, they're calling each other psychopaths. And it is sort of like they're just like us moment in a lot of ways. Like half of them are still on their parents' Netflix and
cell phone, family cell phones, and
and the one I really lined up with was you'll be playing music in the clubhouse, and then a Spotify ad will come on, and people would be like, "Come on, you can't even pay for the Spotify." That was me, because I love banging music with the windows down when it's warm, and I'll have the music on loud. And before my wife put me on her paid family plan, it would just bust out the Spotify ads, and I'd be like turning it down all quickly.
You deserve to be shamed for those ads if there is already a paid account in the house. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's a different situation. If you don't have the money for it, there's no shame in that.
Right.
You had a paid account you had access to. That's just laziness.
Yeah. Well, they're also cheap. I mean, I think it's actually born of like the fact that they come up through the minors with such little money that they just get used to it. I mean, one player was like, I was living that Uno Mas experience at Taco Bell was like my Live Mas experience, and I'm older now. I can't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't. You're an athlete.
not quite the fuel you want to have to perform at the highest level. I guess as Freeman goes, there were expectations. This was a day-to-day injury throughout their series this week against Atlanta. So it wasn't like an immediate IL situation. I think we could put this probably more on the relatively minor side. Could have been worse, probably, is the main takeaway. But at least going into this weekend and for next week, he will not be available. More complicated situation, though. Third closer situation. David Bednar's bad start got him optioned to AAA. I feel terrible about it because I thought Bednar was a great bounce back candidate. I thought he fit very well as second closer, someone you could trust after that pick 150 range because the stuff was still there last year.
He still has the best stuff plus in that bullpen.
And yet it just hasn't been a good start to the year. Could he get the job back? I mean, anything's possible in a bullpen because that bullpen is particular.
I think it's really difficult when you have. I have him for like $12 in Ottoneu. That's a pretty decent price for a closer when you have saves. It's not like a points league situation. If it was points, I'd probably just cut him. But right now, I'm like I'm going to give him a little bit of time, see what happens. Because Dennis Santana, I think, is the guy for now, and he has below average stuff. He doesn't even strike out guys at a great rate and doesn't have really closer velo. I think it should be Colin Holderman if it's anybody, but Holderman is a sinker guyer, and I've been developing a theory that I don't think managers like having sinker guys as their closers.
Sinker guys.
Sinker guys, yeah.
I like that. That's an Enoism right there. Yeah, Holderman's off to a bad start this year too. That's what's opened the door for Dennis Santana. I mean, the velo, it's below average in 2025, but it's not 95.3 is not bad on the fastball. And Dennis Santana, as a prospect several years ago, was someone I was somewhat intrigued by with the Dodgers, but this feels more like a revolving door bullpen to me now than one where we're going to have somebody take this situation and stabilize it. Even if Santana's the guy for now, is he the guy still in June? I would be a little bit surprised if he's that effective month over month to sort of keep the job into that middle part of the season.
I agree, and I have a would you rather Anthony Bender or Dennis Santana?
Ooh, factoring in the slight difference in team quality there too. I think I'd rather have Bender than Santana. How about you?
Yep.
Part of it for me,
and I think maybe one of the sneaky plays is still maybe Holderman for $1 while everyone spends $100 on Dennis Santana.
Yeah, God, the gap between Bender and Santana is almost nothing, though. I mean, it's like, how are you prioritizing players with low bids in your queue? I think is probably the way I'm framing it. It's not go smash the fab piggy bank and make sure you get Anthony Bender because you're talking about another sinker slider guy.
Oh yeah. I know it goes against what I just said, but the slider's good. The stuff is better than Santana's. I'd rather have a guy with a higher stuff number. I think even bad teams. I think both guys might get 20 saves. And I think that Bender's just doesn't have much competition. I think Faucher's stuff has really fallen off, and Tinoco's, as well. So I think Bender's the guy, and I'm not sure Santana's the guy. Like the next save chance, I think could still go to Holderman. So the play I think is to put like very similar numbers on them, but to put lower numbers because neither is necessarily. I don't see a situation here. I'm like, aha, this person is now closer of the future, like somebody that's taking over that had the better stuff all along and should have been closer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that necessarily happening. I can't think of who that is right now, but like when Munoz took over in Seattle, I was like, yeah, and now he's the guy.
So would you avoid getting muddy with the situations in Miami and Pittsburgh and instead go to a place like San Francisco where Camilo Doval's got 2 saves? Now,
sinker guyer.
Yeah. So, but Doval's been their closer before, and I know the situation.
Doval. Walker's the sinker guyer, yeah.
Right. Walker's the sinker ball. But the only reason Doval got a save on Wednesday is that Walker pitched on Monday and Tuesday. And Tuesday was a save chance, and Walker converted it. So it's not like Walker's wobbling. And last weekend, Walker had like a day-to-day back injury, really minor thing that kept him out for a couple of games. So I think all we have here is some clarity that when Walker's not available, Doval is their next up option. So does that clarity and being in maybe a better situation in San Francisco as far as your team context, does that make you more interested or similarly interested in Doval if you're kind of clustering these available relievers together this weekend?
I mean, the sort of back of the envelope for me is 3.8 ERA, 15 saves for Santana. 3.6 ERA, 17, 18 saves for Bender. You know, just the guy on the worst team. And like a 3.0 ERA and 10 saves for Doval. And I bet you if you throw that into the auction calculator, it tells you Doval. But I know I play fantasy too. Like, I know what it's like to be like, okay, I'm just buying 10 saves for the rest of the season. It really only works in deeper leagues where you're like, I'm just buying a good pitcher and I'm going to get 10 saves. I'm going to get some vulture wins probably, where Doval comes in the 7th or 8th and vultures a win. I don't know. And I'm getting the better pitcher. There's places where you just want to get the better pitcher. Saves and holds leagues. Doval. You got to have him. I think you got to have Doval in a 10-team environment if it saves plus holds.
Yeah, saves plus holds, I think, definitely flattens out the player pool enough where someone that's next chair with good skills often is held and used throughout the entire season. I think I'm a little more optimistic about Doval. I know we don't talk a lot about trying to project reliever wins, but I do think that's one area where you might see the auction calculator reward Doval over the course of the season, right? There's a better chance that he finds relief wins than there is that Bender finds them. And probably even a better chance than any of the Pirates relievers find them. So that could be the other kind of random, hard to predict sort of thing that closes the gap in saves, if there is a gap at all between that group.
Yeah. And you could make the case to just not break the bank on any of these because of the particular situations.
Yeah.
If Doval was in Miami or Pittsburgh, then I'd be like, woo, here we go. I'll give you $120 out of my $130 out of my 1,000 because I think this guy will just take it and go. But that's not how the current reality is.
I'm actually a little surprised we didn't have more extensions to talk about today, but a few other odds and ends to get to on the news front.
Some interesting talk about extensions, though, in Discord about how the role of the current financial environment and possible projections of inflation roll into the sort of team side of this. We talked about it from the player side, but on the team side, if they think, inflation, if they're definitely modeling inflation. They have somebody in their R&D department modeling inflation because when you do sign Ottoneu and Soto to these deals, you're modeling inflation 10 years out,
right?
Trying to figure out how much that dollar is worth at the end, especially if you're doing deferred money or anything like that. So just interesting to think from the team perspective that they might see inflation coming, and so therefore deciding to ink these long-term deals, just thinking like $20 million is not going to be worth what we even think it is going to be worth now.
Right. Instead of being the equivalent of 15 or 16 million, like maybe it'll
be even less.
It's less. Like that's possible, right? Like, so that's part of the why would teams be interested in this? And then for the player side, aside from that, the global factors, you have the CBA coming up at the end of the 2016 season. So if you are concerned about financial security for one or both of those reasons, you might be pretty happy to take a long-term deal right now. So I think that's why we've seen it. But maybe we'll see more between now and Monday. Zach Neto started a rehab assignment at AAA this week. Just wanted to pass that along because he may be available in some shallow leagues out there and could be an impact guy as a middle infielder once he gets all the way back. The only concern I've had about Neto isn't really price related. It's more that when you have a significant shoulder injury, and I'm saying significant because of the amount of time that he was down from it, we don't know what specifically was repaired in his shoulder at this point in time. You just don't know how quickly everything comes back. I mean, what we saw from him last year, the 23 homers, 30 steals, he's a guy who'd be universally rostered, maybe a top 10 shortstop with relative ease if it all comes back. The only question is, how healthy is he? How strong is that shoulder coming off of surgery?
Yeah. I think if you've been waiting on him, you're happy that this is the time frame. Probably says good things about his health. And I did just come up with a weird little thing that Tim Anderson's sprint speed is one of the biggest increasers. I did a piece today that's in The Athletic about 5 important numbers, even in the first week. And I think sprint speed is just a proxy for health. So Tim Anderson's legs are healthy. His baseball skills are in the tank right now. I mean, with a 45% strikeout rate, it's pretty tough. But he's competing maybe with Kevin Newman for a roster spot once Neto's back. I think the corresponding move there will be a little bit interesting because if Anderson wins out, there's still a potential for deep league steals there.
Yeah, there absolutely is. Some other odds and ends I'll just pass along real quick because we do have Niv Shah joining us here in just a moment. Nestor Cortes bounces back from a disastrous first start with the Brewers at Yankee Stadium. Of course, fires 6 scoreless with 1 hit in his home debut on Thursday night because, as Jason Stark says, baseball, right? That's just how it works. I noticed Jordan Lawlar had a note on RotoWire. He's played 3 different positions through 6 games at Reno, so it looks like the Diamondbacks trying to prep him for more of a super utility role. And one other note on the prospect side, Angel Genao, really interesting infield prospect for the Guardians, is down until June. He suffered a shoulder sprain this spring, according to Jim Callis of MLB.com.
Nestor did not recover any velo, though, just to clarify.
Yeah, it still looked like lower end velo, but locating it well against the Reds. Found a way to bounce back despite that.
The Reds' offense might be bad.
It's a week, man. It's a week.
It's a week. But I just mean, like, one thing that happens often, and this happened last year too, is that their home park makes their offense look better than it is. And what we discovered in the main event last year was that streaming pitchers against them on the road was profitable.
Yeah, it might be a streaming target that the league as a whole is a little less on than some of the more like low-hanging fruit. Everyone was streaming against the White Sox. Everyone was streaming against the Marlins, right? Like the clear bottom 3 all the time offenses were the easy targets.
And it like in your head, if you just think about it, you're like, oh, Ellie De La Cruz, Matt McClain, CES, like that's a good offense, right? And yet it may not be. I don't know why exactly. I would say that maybe they're just not clicking on all cylinders. Maybe they will be. That is definitely still a possibility. But there are some like, you're like Hammer Candelario, and like there's some flaws even in the guys we like in Matt McClain and CES and stuff. So they're not all maybe as good as they seem or as good as maybe their fantasy value is. Sometimes they're gettable. So anyway, I'm not trying to take away from Nestor's accomplishments, even though it really seems like I am.
Yeah, it kind of felt like you were just a little bit. Now it is our pleasure to be joined by our senior hot dog correspondent. He's also the founder of Ottoneu. But senior hot dog correspondent has to be the best title on his resume. It's
absolutely. What a great title to get. Thanks for having me on, guys. I love it.
Well, thank you for setting up
hot dogs.
Let's talk about hot dogs. And thank you for setting up our 6 picks group, by the way. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. I think there's an amazing thing happening at Nationals Park. You get to enjoy it on a regular basis. And look, sometimes the world gifts us something. We can travel without actually getting on an airplane, right? We can let our taste buds bring us to another place in this country or maybe to the other side of the world. Now, in this instance, saved you a train ride to Philly and gave us this monstrosity.
There it is.
The Philadelphia dog, which is described as a quarter pound of beef topped with grilled onions, peppers, and a warm cheese sauce. And it is a winning combo.
It looks so bad.
Man,
so,
you're bringing back a lot of bad memories right now.
You ate this on Sunday. It's Friday, April 4th. You're still here, so thumbs up like you survived the Philly dog. How was this Philly dog?
Yeah, so the Philly dog was an experience. Nats Park has this Taste of the Major stand, and they've been doing it for a couple years now where they try to make this dog for the away team. And they tend to do a lot of putting a secondary meat on a hot dog, really using whatever ingredients they can scrounge up that sort of is an homage to whatever. You can see
or
this
whatever's left over from the last.
it feels a little bit like that. And honestly, like, I don't blame them. Like, it's a huge pain to be like, for this one series, we're going to source something new. But the real disappointment here is that the cheese dog, the cheese portion of this cheese dog was not Cheese Whiz. It was very much the nacho cheese that you dip chips in. And look, that's a subtle but important distinction that I really do need to bring. And the result of it is, this hot dog is on the griddle. It's a good hot dog on the griddle, probably a little greasy, should be a little greasy. You put some nacho cheese goop on top of that, and it just isn't a good feeling in the mouth. It just isn't
like
what you really
grease.
want. Yeah. And those peppers and onions, I think there's an idea there where they could be a little bit, you could do them raw, you could like really crisp them up, but these were sitting for a while, pretty wet. So the whole situation was pretty wet. That's, I think,
It was wet.
which is not like a hot dog word you want to use. I got through about half of it, and then the cheese started congealing. And and then I think the people I was with sort of said, "Niv, you look really sad now." And that was the end of hot dog time, of that particular hot dog. I'm looking forward to some future hot dogs at Nats Park. I've had some really good success in the past with this Taste of the Major stand, so hopefully this is just a blip in the overall experience there. But this one was tough. This one was a tough one.
It reminds me, like, this is my question to you guys, is what's the worst food that is associated with either where you live or where you grew up? Like, what's the worst food? Because this is not maybe fair, because you're right. It's Cheese Whiz that's supposed to be the thing. But, at some level, it's like Philadelphia equals Cheese Whiz. So what's like the worst food associated with somewhere you grew up? I'm in San Francisco right now, and I would have to say it's rice. Now, rice-a-roni is fine. I get, like, the kids love it. It's fine. I'm not saying that all rice is bad, but it's like rice. It's like rice in the burritos, right? San Francisco rice, and it's just like, that's what we're known for. That's maybe like.
Is that what you feel? Rice. Is that what you feel like it is? It's rice. I mean, it's rice.
So, if I think about it,
across a lot of different cuisines that are San Francisco based, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, it's a very Asian city, and like, I mean, it's okay. I would take rice
just okay
over Cheese Whiz. I think. If we're talking about a draft of bad foods associated with where you grew up.
The toughest thing there is that the Cheese Whiz would have been a real clear improvement on that hot dog that I just ate. So I'm not loving the Cheese Whiz slander right now. Like, I'm feeling like I'm pining for the Cheese Whiz instead of the nacho cheese sauce.
I forget where you grew up though, because I met you out here.
Cleveland, mostly Cleveland, and then right, Boston, Cleveland, and like, I don't know, Boston pizza is. People say it's good, but it's like.
There you go.
It's like it's not quite pizza? Right. Well. It's just not quite right, is what it is.
It's just not quite right.
It's just it's like that uncanny valley of pizza. It's like close, but then you're like, man, this is just.
So it's not skinny and it's not deep.
Right. It's just sort of like we didn't really want to think about this too hard. Oh, it was the worst, but.
I think great. The DVR is the best answer. I mean, it's probably like brats, right?
Brats, cheese, fried fish. Cheese. I mean, Wisconsin's cuisine is delicious. It's not good for you, but I have no complaints. Like,
no complaints with that. Yeah.
Beer,
fried
cheese,
fish.
Sausage, fried fish, all good things.
Yeah, can't really find the bad one that you're associated with.
No, it's our accent that everybody thinks is ridiculous.
Takes a little piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. But lots of ground to cover with you, Niv. Not just hot dogs. We want to talk a bit about what's been happening over at Ottoneu. And I think the reason why this is a segment we want to put together is because we're always trying to look ahead on the waiver wire. And Ottoneu, with the bigger rosters, the keeper format especially, is usually a good way to get a sense of what redraft leagues are going to be doing next, because you have opportunities to take chances a little bit in advance. So who are some of the most added players over the last 7 days on Ottoneu?
I'm going to change the question a little bit. I'm looking at auctions that are live right now. So when you add players in Ottoneu, you have 48 hours. They get nominated, and everyone in your league gets an opportunity to put in a bid. And so I think this is a really good way of seeing, like, where are people looking right now. These are the guys that will be the most added in the next 2 days. Dennis Santana on the Pirates is active, has an active auction in over 1/8 of Ottoneu leagues right now. So that's a pretty popular ad right now. He's been added pretty increasingly recently. Obviously, there are like bullpen issues over there, so they're sorting that out. Probably a direct relation to David Bednar getting sent down, I guess.
Yep.
Jake Mangum on the Rays.
Yep.
He's a big ad. Obviously, having a very great start to the season and the career. So that's pretty exciting. He's live in 39 leagues. So he's been added in a fair number already, and we're looking at out of 400-ish. So that's a good way to look. And then I'm going down a little bit further. Andrew Benintendi, we just added him in the Fangraphs Staff League. He is active in about 25 leagues. So what is that? Like a 16th of leagues right now, but he's been added in a bunch of leagues already. So that's sort of a situation where you're sort of trying to recover a mistake, probably, where he was available after your draft.
Need or something.
Yeah, but then it's an injury need. So that's sort of a different kind of thing. But really interested in Jake Mangum and how he progresses and if he continues to hold down a slot in the Rays lineup, because I know they have a lot of Major League Baseball players, so that's a little tricky to sort out.
I mean, one nice thing about him is he's a switch hitter, and that immediately makes you take notice on the Rays because they can't. I mean, it's not a natural platoon, but it also means that maybe he could come out of there with an everyday job and makes contact. It's not super powerful, but he's really speedy. Could he take DeLuca's job? Could he just lock down a job, or could he just be the forever replacement for Josh Lowe while he's out and still be valuable for a month or so? Because Josh Lowe is nursing an oblique, and it can take a while.
Yeah, take a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with Mangum, he's just he's a late bloomer. He's 29. He's one of those guys. He was a little old as a college player, lost his 2020 minor league season because everyone lost that year, and then is just kind of fallen by the wayside. Like, you're just never going to see that guy as a prospect because of his age, but you never know. It's just the kind of thing that if the opportunity strikes, does enough things well, he could stick and actually have more of a long-term role. So I think he makes sense as a pretty interesting ad. The other thing we're going to talk to you about, I think, were the roster rates on 6 picks, right? You set up a 6 picks group for us here at Rates and Barrels, and it's been a lot of fun playing that so far. And it is, to me, it's a more fun way to play daily fantasy because it's a simpler salary cap game. You choose 6 players, shockingly, with the name, and fit under the salary cap, and you get the auto picker button that you set up for us too. So if you're in a hurry, you just need to get some names in there, you have that option as well.
It really doesn't take that long. I was a little bit worried that it would take up too much of my time, but you put enough information in there. When you click SP, you get handedness. When you click the players, the offensive players, you get their handedness and their opposing pitchers' handedness. I mean, that's how I make most of my decisions, is basically handedness and park. Maybe some strength of schedule, and honestly, I'm not thinking this one really hard. I'm not trying to model this out. I'm like, oh, maybe he's hot. Oh, Ellie's too cheap.
I find it to be a good way to root for guys that I don't have rostered anywhere.
That too, yeah.
So, real good opportunity, especially in the starting pitcher. Like, I feel like today I want to root for a certain starter, and I'm going to go for it. Today I did Gavin Williams, which is, I'm a Cleveland homer, so that's a little bit of not proving my point. But, generally, it's a fun way.
For him anyway.
Yeah, I was going to root for him anyway. But it's a fun way to, everyone's talking about this guy. Let me see what's the deal. Let me see what's going on with him. Let me track him for a day and see what that's like. So, we're going on, and baseball has already started for the day. So I can look at just, we had 300 entries, 295 entries for today, which is great. Really good number. And Spencer Schwellenbach is the number 1 pick. 44% of people picked him. Obviously, starting pitching, you sort of coalesce around a good answer there. If you see something that's both a value and fits some of the stuff that Eno was talking about, ballpark and everything. That's a fun place to go. And then for position player, Tyler Soderstrom is
I took
24%.
He's in Colorado.
Right.
I did a piece
and he's having
today.
a nice start. Yeah.
I had to do a piece today on 5 numbers that matter, and he showed up, I think, twice. His max exit velocity, he's hit a ball harder than he's ever hit in the major leagues, and he's running faster. So, I mean, I just take that as like he's healthy, he's got a job, he's in Colorado. I definitely took him. I took Gossman because he showed up on another one of my numbers. His velo is up. He's one of the biggest velo risers. He's up a tick and a half. And he's in New York. It's a nice park, and he was only $15. So
you may be alone on Gossman. I'm looking through real quick, and it's that's what you want to do. You want to be zagging, right?
Yeah.
Yes, like that to me it's a principle of the larger DFS contests that have tens of thousands of entries. But even in Ottoneu, I think you still, if it's a few hundred people you're playing against, you want leverage. You want a different sort of build. Like sometimes there are good chalky plays, especially on a day like Thursday. There were fewer games on Thursday, right?
Right.
So you don't have as many options. You can't miss if there's a really chalky pitcher, especially. But I was looking at the pick percentages for my lineup today. I have only one guy above 5% for pick percentage. Max Fried, my starter.
Wow.
Everybody else is below 5%. So if that lineup hits,
how do you see
there's
that?
a really good chance I'm coming up.
You can look at your entry now. If you track your scoring, you can see the percentage of picks for each of your guys.
Yeah, post lock, it's out there as a
number
for
nice.
your lineup.
I was on mobile vertical.
Yeah.
Tyler Soderstrom 24%.
And Gossman
0.7%.
I think you're with one other person. Yeah, it's 2 people. That's what you want. Just to piggyback on that for a second, down at the bottom here, I'm looking at 0.34% picks. So 0.3%. That's one guy. Roki Sasaki is alone, even though he is not going to pitch today. I think someone made a mistake and popped him as a relief pitcher. But then more correctly, Luis Robert, Randy Rosarina, and Willie Adames, all $15 to $20 guys.
Those are probably like right on right guys, right? So you're like,
right.
they don't get the platoon advantage, but maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe that's,
I mean, again, you can't just play handedness if you want to zag, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're going to end up you're going to have to do some things that are a little bit. And then Dylan Cruz is down here still. I'm sort of surprised to see Dylan Cruz with the start he's had, but hopefully he can get himself on the board. These are all like one-off guys. And then, so it's a pretty fun way of looking at it and a pretty fun way of following the slate. We have a lot of day games today and into the night. So the leaderboard should be active and bouncing around. So I'm excited to track along with it today.
Yeah, I always like Tuesdays and Fridays as my favorite weekdays to play DFS because I just like the bigger slates. I liked having more options. I felt like that lent itself to the best experience. But I do think this is a great way for us to all play together. If you have not signed up for our 6 picks group, you can still do that. Information is in the Discord. We're going to do different prizes throughout the year. You have sessions, right? So it's kind of like partial seasons. So if you join in late, it's okay. We're going to find ways to reward people who've been playing at various points.
We're putting some merch on the line here for the first session.
That's sick.
Free hat. You know what beer that's sort of inspired by, right?
Remind me.
Hams.
Oh yeah, I love it. All right,
I think it's just subtle enough for you. Like
sending me to a couple dive bars right now.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's it's the best. But yeah, I just noticed on the schedule. So before we let you go, it looks like you got the D-backs coming to town at Nats Park this week. So I'm guessing
100%
I'm going to guess.
bacon.
No, chorizo, man. They're going to put chorizo on that hot dog.
So I'm not going to be able to go to the Diamondback series, but the next series after that is the Dodgers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the LA Dodgers inspired hot dog is. Last year, and this is actually an important distinction, and I wonder if they're going to do the same thing. They did a hot dog that had nacho cheese on it, had jalapenos on it, but the hot dog was wrapped in bacon. And I got to tell you, crispy bacon really sorts out some of that nacho cheese goopiness. It really worked out. It was pretty tasty.
You needed something crunchy.
Yeah, just something to cut it, because otherwise it's just
But there's nothing crunchy on a
Sloppy.
cheesesteak. That's what
No,
a cheesesteak.
I know,
They
I know,
nailed
I
it. The
know.
cheesesteak is kind of a sloppy mess.
Yeah. So, hopefully I'll be able to check back in with you guys after that Dodgers series, and we can go from there.
We'll put that on the calendar because
That
I'd
sounds
love to
great.
know like how you cover Los Angeles in one.
Yeah, I mean,
Especially because the Dodger dog itself is pretty boring. It's just
right. I mean, it's just a regular hot dog.
it's a
right?
dog. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the challenge of this thing is that you can't just be like, we're doing the hot dog of the weights. Boston comes to town, you're just giving us a hot dog. LA's
Put some
coming to
clam
town.
chowder on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Oh, yeah.
No. All right. Before Eno gives us any more culinary nightmares, thank you for joining us today, Niv. Thank you again for setting up our 6 picks group. Look forward to catching up with you again here in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, guys. It was really fun. I'll talk to you soon.
That's Niv Shah, senior hot dog correspondent here at Rates and Barrels and founder of Ottoneu. All right, so now we have another brainchild of Eno's. Eno wanted to do a draft. It's kind of a late round pitchers draft based on where these guys went. So I said, we got to have some rules. We gotta have some boundaries for how this draft's going to go. So Eno pulled together a list of pitchers under 50% rostered on Yahoo with fewer than 25 major league starts. So it's a group of mostly prospects, a few late bloomers, and one player who has made the move from Japan late in his career. Tomoyuki Sugano actually qualifies for our draft. We got this big board, 17 pitchers to choose from. I'll name them real quick. Yeah, Jose Soriano, Osvaldo Bido, Ben Brown, Davis Martin, Jack Kochanowicz, Landon Roop, Cade Povich, Richard Fitz, Sean Burke, AJ Smith-Shaver, Hayden Wesneski, Shane Smith, Tomoyuki Sugano, Will Warren, Kumar Rocker, Zebby Matthews, and Max Meyer, all on the board. That is actually in an order of war accrued since the start of last season. If you're wondering why did he name them in that order, that was the leaderboard that I happened to put together just so we can get all the names in one place. I think the one thing you didn't tell me, is how are we being graded in this draft? Just 5x5 value for the rest of the season? Are we looking for major league innings? What's our goal? What are we aiming for?
Let's go by 5x5 value. I mean, the idea here is that you are looking at these pitchers on your waiver wires and trying to decide if they are good enough to pick up and who are the best of them. And it so often happens that they had one good start just last time out, and that's enough, and you pick them up, and then the other guy has a good start, and you pick them up. So I thought prioritizing these young pitchers might be a smart idea because that's what you have to do when you're deciding who to pick up.
Yeah, especially 10, 12 team leagues, you're kind of living in that bubble where what you have looks pretty good, but what's out there looks really good too. It's the holding hands meme, looking back at the waiver wire and trying to make a good decision as you try and upgrade your roster. Do I have the first pick or do you?
You have the first pick.
Oh, that's phenomenal. I'll put the board back up there in case you are following along on YouTube. Good names to choose from here. Hayden Wesneski sort of jumps off the page to me as the guy that I like the most. I think it's combination of the stuff. It's a slightly wider arsenal. It's the success the Astros have had developing pitching in recent years. The guy they sought out via trade this offseason, getting him included in that Kyle Tucker trade. So he kind of looks to me like the guy that if I'm trying to find a difference maker who's on at least a good, if not very good team this year, Wesneski sort of ticks all the boxes for me, whereas a lot of these guys have some skills and even some job risk. I don't know if Wesneski really has job risk.
Lance McCullers Jr. is coming at some point. There might be a crowd in that rotation at some point, but if he continues to pitch well, he'll keep his job. There's also the chance that somebody else gets hurt in that rotation and it all evens out in the end.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm looking at. It's just there's enough injury risk baked in. Wesneski probably fine. Up to this point in his career, 23.2% carry, only a 7.7% walk rate. I know a lot of that has come working as a reliever, but some of those appearances were as a starter too. So has sort of passed the baseline. Can he make it as a big league pitcher test with what we've seen so far?
All right. For the second pick in the draft, I take... Everybody knows who I'm taking. It's Jose Soriano, and I'm taking him because he throws really hard. He does not strike out a ton of batters, but he keeps the ball in the ballpark. It's a heavy sinker, and Right now, he seems to be pitching really well. He has the best stuff plus of this group, and he hasn't even thrown his splitter yet, which I'm hoping is a good sign that he's just sort of easing into the season and he'll break out the splitter. Otherwise, if it's just sinker, slider with the occasional four seam and curve, I think it's a wide enough arsenal. I think Jose Soriano is a great pitcher, actually. I think he's a really good pitcher. I think the only risk is that this is a double Tommy John guy, and he topped out at 113 innings last year, so I don't know how many innings he's going to get, but I'm going to bet on them being good.
Yeah, I think you could see a step forward in K rate from Soriano, and if you're playing 1 year at a time, especially the injury risk, while it's still there, it's less of a concern than it would be like in a keeper or a dynasty setting, so I think that pick makes a lot of sense. Also passes the smell test as far as like surviving a prolonged opportunity in the big leagues already from a skills perspective. Second pick for me, I know why you set this draft up, by the way. You just wanted to have Osvaldo Bido again. Like that's
We're not
that's
snaking?
what it's all about. I don't know. There's only two of us. All right, fine. Take another one. Do you want Bido?
No, I'm going to take Landon Roop.
You're taking Landon Roop.
All
right.
I'm taking him because I think that he can actually feature the cutter more than he did. He only threw them a couple times. And I think that the pitch looked good enough to me that means he can be a 4-pitch guy. The changeup was spotted really well, and the curve is an elite pitch. The sinker is a good pitch. I think this is kind of like the Wesnenski. It's kind of like the Clark Schmidt. It's kind of like the Michael King. It's a sinker sweeper type guy who is putting forward these other pitches that are going to be good enough to make it work. Also, he struck out 40% of the guys he saw, and at some point, he'd struck out like 6 guys in a row or 5 guys in a row. So I know it didn't work out walk-wise for him in that start, and he only went 4 and gave up some runs. But I think that's a tough Houston lineup. Landon Rupp has what it takes. He's not going to walk as many guys next time around.
Yeah, I think that pick makes a lot of sense. Kind of dovetails with a lot of things you were looking at throughout the spring. You were kind of ahead of how they were going to play out their rotation, voicing your concerns about Kyle Harrison and acknowledging how well Roop was pitching in Arizona as well. So I'm not surprised that you wanted to grab him as one of your pitchers for this particular exercise. I'm going to take Will Warren, kind of in a similar vein. I do think the job security is pretty solid because of the injury to Garrett Cole. Warren has become a little bit of a wider arsenal guy. Maybe the velo's not quite what we want it to be, so I want to see where that goes the next couple times out. Does get pretty good extension, so maybe he can get away with slightly less velocity anyway, and with that deeper pitch mix, maybe he's not as dependent on that four-seamer, so it doesn't quite matter. I think Warren leads me to a broader question of, how much are you willing to just look right past results, especially in recent years at AAA, right? A 5.91 ERA, 140 WHIP last year, but a 28% K rate and 8% walk rate. It was really just a home run problem that got a lot worse than we'd seen at previous stops. I mean, prior to AAA, Will Warren did not have a home run problem. Being in Yankee Stadium as a rookie, especially, there's probably going to be some issues keeping the ball in the park, but I think the core skills here are solid, and the wider mix gives me a little bit of confidence that you can get away with that velo being less than we'd like to see.
I think to some extent it's a lefty problem. That's the home run problem in the minor leagues for Will Warren, and I think that's the walk problem so far this season. He seems to be the plan seems to be right now kind of to walk lefties and get the righties out. And I'm still worried sort of long term about his viability, but he is in that Landon Rupp, Clark Schmidt, Michael King tree. I mean, that's where he's coming from. He's got the sinker slider arm slot, and he's trying to make the four seam and the changeup round him out. The changeup doesn't rate well by Stuff Plus. You have taken 2 guys with below average Stuff Plus, and I've taken the 2 guys at the top of this by Stuff Plus. But we all know there's more to pitching than just Stuff Plus, so I like the pick.
I'll take AJ Smith-Shawver for my next pick. I think he's 22, throws pretty hard. Splitter looked great. I mean, this is a guy that I think has a lot of ways to continue getting better, but it's organizational trust. Atlanta does such a great job with pitching. We've seen it with guys they've acquired via trade that are Ronaldo Lopez. We're coming back from the bullpen, but young pitching development has also been a strength of this organization as well. Spencer Schwellenbach popped last season. I think a lot of us thought Smith-Shawver was going to get that opportunity and run with it a year ago. So There's just a lot of reasons to believe that because they didn't go out and replace Max Fried with another big free agent addition or a trade, that Smith-Shawver is someone they actually believe in as well.
Yeah, I like that pick. There was a splitter that he threw that, came so far inside on Manny Machado that they exchanged glances. Manny was like, oof, what was that? And so Shaver's like, kind of got away from me. He's learning to corral that splitter, but it has tons of movement. And the backbone is that four seam and that splitter, but he still has that curve that can split it pretty well. And he's throwing a harder slider. I think there's maybe a chance that, he can spin it. He has an okay feel for spin, and that those breaking balls will rise to meet the rest of his pitches. I mean, he literally was a curve guy coming up. It was supposed to be a great pitch. So I like that one a lot. I think he may have, among the pitchers that are picked today, I think he may have the best upside, because you're talking about a guy who has maybe the best four-seam fastball in this group, and then you're pairing that splitter and maybe two good breaking balls. There's really a lot of upside with AJ Smith-Shawver. I love that pick. I don't know that my next pick, for my third pick, I am just going down the list on Stuff Plus, it looks like, but I'm going to pick Max Meyer, and it's not just about Stuff Plus, where he has improved. He's improved his sinker and his four-seam. He's changed his slider. He's thrown it really hard. He has two sliders now, and he has two fastballs. I like the big mix now, all of a sudden, even though he is 50% slider at his core. He's a slider guy. I also like the park. And I know that he won't give you a lot of wins, but, I think I'm going to bet on him being the best pitcher or the second best pitcher, Sandy Alcantara's, depending on how long he is in Florida. The best at the end of the season. Max Meyer will be the best Miami Marlin starting pitcher, and I believe in that right now.
Yeah, I mean, Max Meyer has been interesting for years, and I worried previously that he didn't have enough pitches to be more than a two times to the order, or like five and fly sort of starter. But I think the development of those extra offerings, that gives him the shot. And I think in Miami especially, this is a learning year for a lot of guys, right? It's a rebuilding year too, but I'll call it a learning year for starters, where they can just push guys. They can say, let's problem solve it. Let's find ways to get to the lineup a third time. Let's find solutions to your problems against lefties. So I could see Max Meyer exceeding expectations. I mean, look what Ryan Weathers did down there last year too. I think the park is a nice safety net as far as like a home streaming environment goes as well, despite the wind concerns that you outlined.
Yeah. And for my fourth pick, I'm actually having a very difficult internal debate. I have, on one hand, a guy that I've labeled a sleeper and have looked to break out this season, have tons of shares of him. On the other hand, I am worried about Osvaldo Bido in Sacramento, because that park, I was there on opening day, and the ball was just flying out already, and it was 48 degrees. It's going to be 98 degrees at game time at some point in Sacramento, and we're a little bit worried about that. So I'll leave him there. Maybe you'll leave him for me. I don't think this guy will make him back to me, so a little bit of strategery here. I'm going to take Cade Povich in his nice wide arsenal with command. He's pushed the four seam to above average. He's got two fastballs. He's got two breaking balls. He's got a changeup. It's the kick change. I love the kick change. The kick change is all the riot. And Cade Povich is throwing one, and he doesn't have the same park concerns. He doesn't have the same wind concerns. I'm actually concerned about Oakland. I'm not sure that they have the pitching staff in general. I'm not sure they have the relief corps to get to Mason Miller. And so Bido is going to lose some wins along the way in the 7th and 8th innings, I believe, whereas Cade Povich is on a pretty stellar team with a pretty good bullpen that's pretty deep. I'm going to take Cade Povich with my fourth pick.
Yeah, Povich, kind of a low-to-me guy in some ways. Last year, just coming through with the Orioles, didn't have a ton of prospect hype, but was getting good results along the way. I liked him for deeper keeper league formats. I don't know if he's ever going to be, more than like a quality mid-rotation back-end sort of guy, but it's fine. It absolutely works. I think the stuff will play up just fine, and the team context is certainly a positive there as well. Am I taking two because we're going to five? Am I only taking one because we're stopping at four? All right, I get two, and then you'll get your last one. Okay, I'll take Richard Fitz for one of the two. a wider arsenal than expected, right? We saw sweeper, slider, four seam, curve, sinker, change. I'm here for it. They've got some injuries there already. Expected. Yeah, kind of a low-key other guy they sought out via trade, getting an opportunity. So a lot of ways he can make it work. We know Fenway is a tough place to pitch. A little harder on lefties than on righties, though, so I think that's going to be fine. So I think Richard Fitz actually ends up being a more like a 14-plus team league guy for sticking on a roster. But I think we're going to have opportunities to use him in more shallow formats as well, because Boston looks really good. Looks like a team that's going to provide plenty of run support.
Yeah, that's a good pick. You know, he's 95 plus now. I mean, he's sitting basically 96. It's not great shape on the fastball, which is why Stuff Plus doesn't love it. But a 91 Stuff Plus on the four seam, 92 Stuff Plus on the sinker is not like terrible fastball territory. You know, he can make that work, especially with a Boston team that loves to pitch backwards. And he's the guy that can pitch backwards for you because he has the secondary offerings to do so.
Yeah, I think this could definitely work. The last pick's actually maybe the hardest one of all, just because there's a bunch of names I like, and they're all useful and interesting for different reasons. I'm worried about Bideau and the A's pitching for the reasons you mentioned too. So I'm not going to go the Bideau route. He'll still be there for you if you decide you want to take him. I like Sean Burke, but I think we've seen it in the two starts already. It's going to be uneven. It's going to be steps forward with setbacks. I think it's going to be like that for a lot of the pitchers with the White Sox, even though the long-term things are gradually headed in the right direction. I think I'm going Ben Brown here with this last pick. We talked a lot about him during draft season. Probably the guy that has the most reliever-ish arsenal, maybe of anyone we've drafted so far. Like more questions about how well he's going to navigate the lineup a third time through because it's such a four-seam curve dominant combo. But we've seen guys come through with two really good pitches and make it work as a starter. I think the fact that he broke into the regular season in that rotation, not having to wait for that opportunity, gives you an idea of how much the Cubs value him. So despite the heavy dependence on those two pitches, I'm going to take Ben Brown with my fifth and final pick.
Yeah, I don't know why, but with the velo drop from 96 to 95, Stuff Plus says that, you know, he doesn't have a plus fastball anymore, but I would have to say, let's give it another start at least because, you know, 96 miles an hour on the fastball, basically 95.6 with the strikeout rate that he showed is every bit what we expected from him. And he has a great breaking ball. And, you know, for what it's worth, the breaking ball is a curve ball. So there is a chance that it is okay platoon split wise. It's just going to be hard for him to get deeper into games with that smaller arsenal. On the other hand, was talking to Boo Shambi, and he was like, this is the type of pitcher we haven't had a lot of here in Chicago. And so I do think that Chicago's excited to have kind of a 96 mile an hour guy with an 86 mile an hour power curve, like a high stuff, at least theoretically high stuff pitcher in the rotation. So I kind of thought you'd take him. And so with my fifth pick, I'm going to take Osvaldo Bideau, and I'm going to take him despite the concerns about that bullpen and about that park, partially because he has three fastballs, two of which are above average by Stuff Plus, but all three of which are decent velo that he can command to an okay extent, I believe, and a good slider. Now it is a little bit of a weird package because he doesn't have multiple secondary things, but with three fastballs, I think that he can still keep batters on their heels. I just need the command to take a tiny bit step forward. Pretty please, Osvaldo Bideau, just a little bit.
Is that a 74 location plus from his first outing?
Yes, it is. It's not what you want. Not what you want.
Even
now,
in the range of fluctuations from start to start, that feels like a pretty low valley.
It is, because now the way that Stuff Plus and Location Plus work, 100 is average and 10 points is one standard deviation of off of average, and so 30 points would be three standard deviations off average. That is a real outlier. Just to give you perspective on this, Hunter Green, who sat 100 in his start, has a 134 Stuff Plus, which means he is three standard deviations above average on the Stuff Plus spec. So Osvaldo Bideau's command is as bad as Hunter Green's stuff is good.
And he's your just roster pitcher.
Yes, but
Oh,
it's one
no.
start. It's one start. It's okay. It's one start.
Man, I've seen pitchers like this break your heart enough times.
So many times. This is really my catnip, dude. I just keep going for it.
I have him
Hunter
in a few
Green
places.
himself. Hunter Green himself was the guy who was high stuff and not so great command.
I trust your analysis. Love you like a brother. I have Osvaldo Bino on some teams, and I'm just like, ooh, boy, like this could be rough. Like, so me not taking him with these 5 picks was not at all trolling you. It was just acknowledging that there is real risk there. I think of the names we didn't pick, one we should talk about on our way out the door is Sugano, because he's the most unique of the bunch since he's much older. He was a professional in Japan for a long time. When the Orioles signed him, a lot of our concern was that it's a low strikeout rate in Japan. So when you run that into translated projections, it's going to be an even lower strikeout in Major League Baseball. Is there any chance? It was, but is there any chance that if you get a chance to watch him, is there something that we may be missing with the model, or something that could enable him to be successful despite being more like a Michaelis or Jameson Tyon by strikeout rate? Is there enough in the arsenal for him to make it work, to induce weak contact? Is the command good enough for Sugano to be better than expected by model?
The model actually doesn't hate him. I mean, a 95 stuff plus is not that bad for, a 35-year-old who struck out that few in Japan. And what really strikes out for me is, listen to this: sinker 85 stuff plus, splitter 88, fastball 109, cutter 91, slider 105, curve 102, and each of those pitches is thrown more than 11% of the time. So he literally is a 6-pitch pitcher with, where he's using them all. It's not just like, he has a 5% pitch or whatever. He's throwing them all at any time, and it really will test the bond between, do you have an elite pitch that you can go to get strike 3? And did you have a wide arsenal? He has the wide arsenal, very obviously. Does he have the pitch that he can go to for strike 3? I don't know. And a 6.8% swinging strike rate and a 5.6% strike rate in his first 4 innings does tell you that there is a considerable amount of risk there. A 5.64 Sierra for Sugano. 93 mile an hour fastball is not as bad as I thought. And the stuff plus is not as bad as I thought. So I think there is a real case that Sugano is useful. And I am trying to hold on to him in my 15 teams where I have a share and I need pitching. Just one more week, see one more start from him, see what happens.
Yeah, I think you're going to be careful in leagues that have innings cap because of the K rate. But I think what you might see is a pitcher that beats his projection, in part because the batting average on balls in play might come in a tad low. Having 6 pitches he actually uses means guys aren't going to square stuff up quite as often. Again, it's a little bit of a leap of faith, more of a deep league sort of play. But I could just see Sugano being better than some people anticipated by those ways.
And on the same level, Kahanowitz, like with his, he always struck out 18 or 19% in the minors. Last year, he struck out 9.4%. I had a discussion with a scout and a writer, in front of his one of his spring starts, where I said if he strikes out 9% of the batters like he did last year, he's not a viable major league starting pitcher. And they all said, oh no, he's a sinker baller. It's going to work out. But I left the door open saying if he does get back to sort of the 19%, there are other pitchers that are like that. Now, all his projections are for 13%, but he has 19% right now. And I do think he has the ability with a 96-mile bowling ball sinker and a pretty good slider to strike out 17, 18% of the guys he sees. And I think that could end up producing something similar to last year, a near 4 ERA with like a 1.2, 1.5 whip and not great strikeouts. That's where I kind of see Sugano as well. So Sugano and Kahanowitz as streamers, as deep league, pickups, if they're still out there. I think they're a little bit underrated, a little bit low to me, but maybe they're going to be useful pitchers.
Yeah, Kahanowitz is a 6'7", 24-year-old lefty. Like there's still some projection there, I would assume, right?
Right.
Still reason to believe that he's not necessarily a finished product. And sure, we could have a debate about how likely it is the Angels are to get the maximum out of him, but nevertheless, he's not a finished product yet. So wouldn't write off the possibility of the Angels getting more than we're expecting from him as well. One more reminder, help us out with that survey if you can, theathletic.com/athletic/survey25. We will drop that link in our show description again today. Thanks again to our senior hot dog correspondent, Niv Shah, for joining us to bring us to the Philly dog. I mean, I feel like I had the Philly dog myself because it brought us all the way to Nats Park.
To go brush my teeth.
To brush my teeth. I just the sogginess, the wetness. Not ideal. Not an ideal texture for a hot dog. Find Eno on Bluesky, enoceras.bsky.social. I am dvr.bsky.social. That is going to do it for this episode of Rates and Barrels. We're back with you on Monday.
Locals might find me watching Rintaro Sasaki on Saturday at the Sunken Diamond with the Stanford baseball, or Sunday at the Mariners-Giants game. I'm going to watch Little League, college, and major leagues in one weekend. There should be a name for that. Thanks for listening.